They say love is a choice, but what if that choice means breaking your own heart? On a rainy afternoon in the countryside, where fields swayed quietly under gray skies, Tu Diep stood at the center of a storm far greater than the weather. Her heart, once certain, now trembled. Tung, the man from her past, tender, loyal, and regretful, had finally confessed the love he had buried for years. And James, the powerful yet gentle CEO who had protected her through fire and ruin, was being forced into a marriage to save everything he had built. Could love survive sacrifice? And could a heart be shared between the past and the future? Tu Diep never imagined she'd be caught in such a crossroad. Her days with James were filled with quiet dinners, late-night phone calls, and the warmth of a man who never hesitated to shield her from harm. Yet, just as their bond deepened, a corporate storm shook their world. James's company teetered on the edge of collapse, and the only way out was a marriage alliance with the daughter of a powerful investor. He didn't love the woman, but he might have to marry her. Meanwhile, Tung, who had once watched her walk away without a word, returned like a whisper from the past, gentler, more grounded. "I should have told you long ago," he said, voice low, eyes sincere. "But I never stopped loving you." His confession unraveled everything. For the first time, Tu Diep questioned her future. Was love meant to be fought for against all odds, like what she had with James? Or was it something simpler, a safe harbor, a second chance, as Tung offered? As rumors spread of James's impending engagement, the media swarmed, and silence grew between him and Tu Diep. He didn't explain. He only looked at her with pain buried deep in his eyes, as if asking her to wait, without asking at all. Tung, in contrast, was present, steady, reminding her of who she was before chaos turned her life upside down. But could she return to that version of herself? Or was she already changed, by the trials, by love, by James? In a quiet field where their story began, Tu Diep closed her eyes and listened, not to the noise of obligation, regret, or fear, but to the faintest sound of her heart. Because love isn't always about who shows up at the right time. Sometimes, it's about who stays when everything else is falling apart. The wind rustled gently through the tall grass as Tu Diep stood alone, facing the horizon. The village behind her buzzed with whispers, about James, about the merger, about the future that seemed to unravel before it could fully bloom. She clutched her scarf tightly, heart heavy with the weight of choice. James had not called, not since the board's decision, not since the headlines declared, CEO James Nguyen engaged to business heiress for company merger. And yet, she knew him. She knew the man behind the title. The man who once carried her through a storm, whose fingers trembled when she was ill, who whispered, "You are my home," when the world turned its back on them. But silence was a cruel distance. Tung, on the other hand, had become a shadow that never left her side. He didn't promise grand futures. He didn't bring diamonds or headlines. But he brought peace, a warmth so familiar it felt like childhood, like a forgotten lullaby. "You don't have to wait for someone who doesn't fight for you," Tung told her one evening, handing her a cup of tea. "I'm here now, and I won't leave again." His words lingered, but they also hurt. Because deep down, a part of her still waited, not for apologies, not even for explanations, but for James. Meanwhile, at the edge of the city, James sat alone in the boardroom, the weight of legacy pressing on his shoulders. The engagement announcement was set. Investors were satisfied. The company, saved on paper. But at what cost? He hadn't called Diep, not because he didn't want to, but because he didn't know how to ask her to wait for a man who might no longer belong to her. "Tell her the truth, Tune," his trusted assistant urged. But James only closed his eyes. "If I have to sacrifice my heart to protect her future, so be it." He thought letting her go was the noble choice, but some sacrifices burn deeper than failure. The reunion, days later, Diep walked into the city, Not to beg, not to fight, but to understand. She found him on the rooftop of his office, overlooking the skyline, the engagement ring he never wore resting quietly on the ledge. "You were going to marry her without telling me?" she asked, voice calm but piercing. James turned, surprised. Her eyes, fierce, wounded, beautiful, locked with his ... "I wanted to protect you," he whispered, "but I didn't know if I had the right to ask you to wait for me or again." Tears welled up in her eyes. "You didn't even give me the choice." Silence hung thick between them. Then James stepped forward, gently placing the ring back into his pocket. "Diep, if you still want me, broken, burdened, and uncertain, I'll fight for you. Not for the company, not for my name, just for us." To be continued. Will Diep choose the safety of Tung's steady love or the stormy, unfinished love story with James? Because sometimes, love is not about who deserves you. It's about who you cannot imagine life without. That night, Tu Diep returned to her little room above the flower shop, her heart caught between the comfort of the past and the chaos of love that never faded. Tung had texted her only hours before. "Let me take you away from this. No more heartbreak. Just peace." She read it over and over. Peace. How tempting that sounded. But then came a knock. A quiet, hesitant knock. Not like Tung's confident one. Not like someone certain he would be welcomed. No, this was different. She opened the door. James stood there, soaked in rain, eyes exhausted, and soul stripped bare. "I turned down the engagement," he said, voice barely audible. "They called me a fool. Maybe I am. But I couldn't sell myself to save a company if it meant losing you." She stared at him. "And what now, James? What if your company collapses? What if we fail?" He took a step closer. "Then we fail together. I'd rather build from ashes with you than build an empire without you." The room went quiet. All the memories flooded in. The days he brought her fresh bread when she skipped meals. The way he whispered her name when she couldn't sleep. The long stares across crowded rooms that said everything words couldn't. But then, Tung's voice echoed in her memory. "You deserve someone who doesn't make you question your worth," and she did. Sunlight spilled across the hills as the village began to stir. Diep walked slowly down the path leading to the bench by the lotus pond, a place she had always gone to think. She found Tung there, waiting. He stood when he saw her, smiling softly. "I thought you might come." "I had to," she said. "You deserve honesty." His smile faltered, but he nodded. "I love the peace you bring me," she continued. "You are the kind of man any woman would be lucky to have." But she hesitated. "But there's a part of me that still runs toward the storm, toward him." Tung looked away, swallowing the hurt like a bitter pill. "He left you once." She nodded. "Yes. And I may regret choosing him. But I'd regret it even more if I didn't give us another chance." There was a silence between them, heavy, respectful. Then Tung smiled again, sad but graceful. "Then go, Diep. And if one day the storm passes and you find yourself needing shelter, you know where I'll be." James waited by the old tree where they first kissed, unsure if she would come. But when she did, hair tied back, wearing the blue dress he once said reminded him of the sky, he couldn't breathe for a moment. She walked right up to him and simply said, "I'm ready to fight beside you, not because it's easy, but because it's you." James pulled her into an embrace, rain or tears, he didn't know anymore. All he knew was that, somehow, fate had bent just enough to bring her back. To be continued, because love is not about finding the perfect person. It's about choosing someone, again and again, even when the world tells you not to. From the tangled emotions of Tu Diep's heart and the difficult choices between James and Tung, we are reminded of a powerful truth. Love is not just about comfort or promises. It's about courage, the courage to choose the one who sees your chaos and stays. Tung offered peace, safety, a life without heartbreak. And yet, sometimes, peace without passion becomes silence. He represented the past, a version of happiness that might have been. James, on the other hand, came with storms. He was imperfect, pressured by business, family, and failures. But even when he was on the verge of losing everything, he chose her, not for convenience, but for love. This story teaches us that the right choice isn't always the easiest one. Sometimes the heart knows where it belongs, even when logic screams otherwise. Loyalty is louder than promises. Tung promised peace, but James proved devotion, not with words, but with sacrifice. Love requires risk. Tu Diep didn't choose certainty, she chose vulnerability. Knowing that true love is often forged in the fire, not found in the calm. Respect and letting go is also love. Tung's decision to accept her choice gracefully is a reminder. Real love isn't about possession. It's about freedom and support, even from a distance. In a world where choices of the heart are rarely black and white, the story of Tu Diep, James, and Tung reminds us that love is not only about who we want, it's about who chooses to stay, grow, and fight with us. Tung's love was real, gentle, kind, and safe. He represented a road not taken, a version of peace many would long for. But love is not only found in comfort, sometimes it's forged in chaos, in uncertainty, in shared battles. James came with burdens, a company on the edge, family pressure, and a heart that had already tasted loss. Yet despite everything, he chose Tu Diep, not as an escape, but as a reason to hold on. Here's the lesson. True love is not found in the absence of problems. It is proven in how we choose to face them together. Let's take this further. Love is not possession. Sometimes, real love is having the strength to let someone go when their heart belongs elsewhere, like Tung did. The strongest love is the one that survives storms. When everything is at stake, the person who stands by your side, not behind you or ahead of you, but with you, is the one worth holding on to. Not being chosen doesn't make your love less valuable. Tung's sincerity and grace in defeat teach us that even unreturned love can be noble. Choose the one who sees your scars and still says, "I'm not going anywhere." That's what James did, not perfectly, but faithfully. Final thought for the audience. Love is not a perfect fairy tale. It's a choice, messy, brave, and honest. And sometimes, the greatest act of love is letting someone follow their heart, even when it breaks yours. In the delicate triangle of Tu Diep, James, and Tung, we find more than just a love story. We discover the true essence of emotional courage. Tung came back with a heart full of hope and regrets, representing the what if of our lives, the roads we left behind. James, on the other hand, bore the weight of responsibility, pain, and loyalty, yet still reached out with open arms, asking Diep to stay. But here's the real lesson. True love is not about choosing the most convenient path. It's about choosing the person who chooses you every single day, despite the storms. From this story, we are reminded, sometimes the past returns, not to take us back, but to help us realize how far we've come. Letting go can be an act of love. Tung's quiet acceptance shows that not all love is meant to be held, some are meant to be remembered with grace. Commitment isn't just about staying, it's about staying even when it's hard. James, facing pressures to marry for business, still sought Diep's heart. The heart always knows. No matter how chaotic the world becomes, our inner truth will guide us. And when we choose from that place, we choose right. Final thought for the audience. In love and in life, we must be brave enough to face the past, strong enough to stand in the present, and wise enough to choose a future that honors our deepest truth. This isn't just a story of who gets chosen, it's a story of how love, when pure, always finds its way home.